If nothing changes, simply nothing changes.
Life's got so shit that I need to do something different.
And if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a result, that's the first stage of insanity.
It's easier to just keep things how it is, right? It's easier just to get up every day and just go on with life. It's easier to do that way. But the minute now you're like, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do this.
It was like an epiphany moment where you feel like, okay, cool, like enough is enough.
If you are the type of person right now who is at a stage in their life and they feel like they want to make some changes and they feel like they're going through it, but they're not making any changes, this episode is for you.
In today's episode, we're going to unlock a lot of myths. We're going to unlock a lot of the issues that you're currently struggling with in terms of changing and actually taking action to take control of your own life.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Unplug Podcast.
Nice.
This is the flipping best YouTube show on,
On where?
On where? Planet Earth.
Planet Earth.
The universe.
The universe.
The Galactical.
Let's go.
So, if you are at a place in your life where you feel like you want to make some changes, you're feeling a bit down, you're feeling a bit upset, you feel a bit stuck, this is the channel for you.
There we go. I love that. I love that. Go on, Mr. Framework.
So, guys, today's episode is about changing your life or making some positive changes in your life. We want to, talk about what can happen if you, just stay stuck, don't work on yourself, don't make improvements, don't develop in yourself, how life can be if you don't make those changes and how life can be if you do make those changes.
Exactly. And we want to unpack, like I said earlier, a lot of myths, a lot of false things in terms of you being stuck in your situation. The big thing that we always say, if nothing changes, simply nothing changes. So we want to get into some positive aspects, some negative aspects, and some practical steps in terms of how we can unpack that. But firstly, I think, taking it home and taking it personal right now, in terms of, for me personally, in terms of a real change that I feel like I was struggling with, was just more so from, I think the biggest one for me was like more so from like an imposter perspective. I just felt that where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go a lot in life, I just felt like I didn't deserve to be there or to be here because there's not a lot of people that sound like me, look like me, doing the type of things that I'm doing. And trying to change that mentality was a massive struggle. And even today, honestly speaking, I still do struggle with that. And it's a bit sometimes like a pinch me moment to think of what I'm currently doing. It's crazy, right? And yeah, that was like a massive thing that I had to like massively unlearn because obviously we're massively conditioned.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We're massively conditioned to think a certain way, act a certain way, dress a certain way, do these certain things. So now trying to unlearn all of that is very difficult. Like one of my friends, he always says, when you're trying to, it's like trying to convince a man for all his life, he's known the sky to be blue. And all of a sudden you're showing him science-based fact that it's actually green. It's hard. It's difficult, and you can't argue with science, right? So that's, I think, like a similar sort of challenge or like back and throw that I've constantly had in my life. But what would you say personally?
I think for me, I'm going to talk about the moment where I had a bit of a reality check. So it's so easy to blame outside factors, right? Outside circumstances when negative things start happening in your life. But I feel like the minute you can just stop, look at the mirror and say to yourself, actually, I'm attracting the things to me because of the person that I am. So if I want things to change, I need to change. And there was a point in my life where I was going through a lot of negativity. I did a lot of bad things. It came back to me, whatever. But ultimately, it came back to me because that was the type of person that I was. So I realized if I wanted my life to change and, I wanted to get out of this negative funk that I went through, I needed to change as a person, But I think it stems from, when we talk about it, it stems from you having this burning desire to want to make these changes. Really, I don't think you can change your life in a real massive way unless you have that burning desire. And I always feel like you get that kind of Gandhi moment. It's like a light bulb. Like, freaking hell, man, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this job. It's time to leave. Yeah. So.
No, I really like that. And I feel like I'm massively related to that. Like there was like an epiphany moment where you feel like, okay, cool, like enough is enough. And I feel like a lot of people have those moments and are simply not acting on them. So like in terms of like some ideas, right, we're always about practicality. But before we get into some more solutions, but what are some ideas perhaps to the people who are watching at home who maybe perhaps are stuck in this cycle of like, I know what I need to do, or I know something needs to change, but I don't have a flipping Scooby of what that looks like?
It means changing what you're doing.
Okay.
Because ultimately, if what you was doing was working, you wouldn't feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get me? So I feel like you have to, take a look at how much you want to change. I feel like, if there's no burning desire, why would you? It's easier to just keep things how it is, right? It's easier just to get up every day and just go on with life. It's easier to do that. But the minute now you're like, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do this. I feel like it takes a big shift, and that's why not a lot of people are able to do that. But you have to get to a place, like I said, and I always say, I probably sound like a broken tape recorder, where life's got so shit that I need to do something different. I hope that answers the question. But
no, it does, and that's sort of what I want to hit home on. And like, just thinking about some ideas now, like, what would you say, like, some actual ideas that people could do to actually now make that change?
Well, one of the big things that I stopped doing was consuming so much TV. Like, it's so easy to get home after a long day at work, if you work for someone now, or you got your own business and you're in the office. Come home and just turn on Netflix, bro. Turn on Prime and just binge. There's always the latest series out. Always. So instead of doing that, can we now find an online course that can teach us a new skill? Can we now go to the gym? Can we now read a book? Can we do something different? Definitely. That's going to give a different outcome. Because 100%. If we do the same thing over and over again, nothing changes. Exactly. So it could be a little habit like that, just your evening habit.
Yeah, definitely. I always try to say, like, try to replace something or positively distract yourself. Even things like you mentioned a form of consumption, that being like what we see, but even like what we eat, like what we fill our bodies with, and that's going to be a reflection of what we want to do. Maybe, you want to start a PT business, you want to start training again, and maybe you don't have the best diet or structure, but you'd be like naturally physically physique, right? I wish that was me, but like,
it's there, bro.
More so, right? Like, again, fueling yourself with what you eat, what you see, like John mentioned as well, but even like your circle and your surroundings, right? Like, who you surround yourself with. Like, they always say, like, you are a sum of like the 5 friends you keep, right? So again, you're choosing your circle wisely. Watch that episode. But 14. Episode 14. But like, again, like, your surroundings shape a lot of who you are and what you're going to be. And again, like John says, like, and even I said as well, like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Yeah. So, and if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a result, that's the first stage of insanity. Yeah,
100%.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of insane people out there.
A lot of insane people.
I'm going to throw in a couple more. And like I said, it could be a little change as, instead of arguing with my partner, I'm going to think of some conflict resolution strategies. Do you know what I mean? Something as little as that. It could be, I'm going to actually start that business, actually do something. I've been sitting on this idea for years. You know what? Let me, I don't know, go and speak to who I need to speak to. Let me go on social media. Yeah, let me get my ideas down. It could be that little shift that then opens up a whole new world that you wouldn't have seen if you didn't make that move.
Yeah, no, 100%. I definitely think small steps are the momentum required to success, right? Just these little small steps of momentum, these little small culminated processes, the pen to paper, like, leave it, stop it, like, just staying here and let's put it to paper. Yeah. Right? Putting it to paper and like physically seeing it in front of you and then now actioning that. Yeah. Right? In any sort of form of capacity. Like, just simply telling someone else. Right? I think that's going to lead you to actually taking a change and getting you out of your current working environment right now.
Yeah, cool. And I was just going to throw in there as well, I feel like it's great, obviously, people could be at home thinking, all right, cool, you've got these, practical steps and you've got these ideas on how to overcome these things. Like, what's your story, innit? How the problems that we're now talking about, how did they appear in your life and kind of what helped you find a solution or do the solution? So what's your personal story that you can share with someone that helps them understand, like, I was there. So
like I said personally earlier, like a big thing for me was like imposter syndrome. So like, again, for those of you who are sort of joining in for the first time, so I come from a background of finance in project management, and currently right now I'm in the property world, like property investing, property management and whatnot. So for me to get into property, right, like I'm in my mid-20s right now, and for me to get into property, again, like I said, there was no one that sounded like me and looked like me. So the most rational course that I thought for me to get into the property space was to me to just like work up the corporate ladder, right? Work up the corporate ladder, become a project manager, get this in finance, work in the city, etc. And that's literally what I was doing, very, very comfortable doing that. But I thought, flipping out, I've got to do that for like 50 years. I want this now, right? And the people that have it now aren't like me, don't look like me, don't sound like me, don't come from the background that I come from. So how do I do that? And that was my epiphany moment. And that's why I felt like an imposter even just trying to envision that as a potential opportunity.
Pattern interrupt. Quick question, because a lot of people might want to hear or want to know the answer to this. Obviously, you're a lot younger than me. Why do young people always feel like they need to have it now? Like, I'm from a generation where it takes time.
Yeah.
It might take 10 years for you to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
But I feel like your generation, everyone just wants it now. I want it in a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's like, where does that mentality come from?
I think it's, I say unfortunately or fortunately, but it's the current climate that we're in, right? We have access, the level of speed to instantaneous pleasure, gratification is at our fingertips. And that naturally translates to anything and everything we want in life.
Okay.
Right? If I want to meet someone and date someone, I can download an app, put in my postcode, and there'll be hundreds or thousands of potential people, women, don't get twisted, that, you know what I mean, that you can have access to, that you can speak to.
Yeah.
If I want to get dinner and I don't want to cook and spend a half an hour or an hour shaking my bum in the kitchen, I can press 3-4 taps and I've got Chinese at my doorstep.
Yeah, within 15 minutes.
If I want a new bed, a new desk in my house, I can go on Amazon and it'll be there next day.
Yeah.
So imagine living and growing up in that environment.
No, that makes sense.
World. And I think naturally that just sort of translates into
wanting things
I just
now,
want stuff yesterday.
Now. So basically like big babies. Basically.
Basically. And if I don't get it, I'll throw my toys at the pram.
Yeah, no, I just thought there might be a segment of our audience are like, why do young people always feel like they want it now? Well, there you have it.
But also just whilst we're on that topic, and this could be probably in like another episode in terms of like, you know, you can't rush greatness, as they always say. I think that also is a stumbling block because and obviously I know like working with you, speaking with you and being around you and like, you know, you always see you can't rush greatness. It doesn't allow me to see what I've been able to do in the short space of time, number one. So there's a lack of appreciation and being grateful, right? Which we've also talked about in a few other episodes. But it means that I don't spend a long enough time doing something because I haven't yielded the results as quick as I'd like it to be. And just in reality, it doesn't work like that.
Of course.
You know,
of course.
You know, like a lot of the amazing infrastructures, conglomerates, Uber, Airbnb, delivery, like they weren't like created overnight, right? Like Dyson, like apparently looks like over like 900 different designs, right? So I think like, again, for like young people my age and around, like, yeah, there is, you know, I know there's an element of wanting it now, which is good. That's the hunger that fuels a lot of what we need to do. But also just taking our time and understanding we can't rush greatness. And if it's your time, it's your time.
And I'll just throw in there, I feel like, that generation just needs to understand that, you know, anything worth having takes time. Like normally if you achieve something quite quickly as well, you don't really appreciate it. You didn't have to work that hard. But when you've had to grind out
blood,
3,
sweat,
4, 5 years, bro, of constant grind to then get whatever it is you want to achieve. Obviously, you know, we all want different things in life. Some people don't want to be a millionaires. Some people just want to be whatever. Yeah. But it takes time. It does take time. And I think, I always say the journey is the most important part, even for me, more than the end goal, because on the journey, that's where you learn everything. That's where you learn the good habits. That's where you meet the good people. That's where you gain experience. You fail. You learn, like Jim Rohn famously once said a quote, and it was like, he said, set the goal of being a millionaire, cool, whatever. And he said, not to make the million, but what you will have to become and the type of person you have to become to get that million. Like in order to be successful, just say a millionaire, you have to become a certain type of person, disciplined, hardworking, consistent, be able to overcome the fear of failure. You know, when you feel, we all get imposter syndrome, you feel like, who am I to be on a podcast telling people how to live their life? Or who am I to have the things that I have? But it's a part of the journey. And I feel like, try your best to just, whenever you feel like that, it's just a feeling in the moment. It will pass. It will pass, you know.
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you. No, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. But so going back now, it was like I mentioned, you know, working in corporate, and I just thought to get to where I wanted to be, something had to change, right? In regards to my mindset of feeling like imposter, that I can't be involved in property. I can't buy property. I can't develop property. I can't do et cetera, et cetera. So one massive thing that I felt that I had to change was my media environment, right? It was my media environment. When I saw first media, I wasn't really into this sort of like self-development. I told you I picked up my first book.
Yeah, recently.
when I met you, like reading a book like Page to Page, I didn't think of that. So I thought, but the one thing I did know I had to change, because always it's a common theme of your surroundings, your environment shape you. So okay, cool. Like my current environment, my corporate working environment tells me that I need to work for 40 to 50 years to be able to get X. Let me change my environment for people who didn't have to go through the conventional route and on a more maybe like unorthodox route to get to where they needed to be, right? And that's what I did. So I started going to networking events. I started meeting people in property. I started meeting developers. I started meeting landlords. I started meeting property owners. And I said, flipping no, I'm in step 1 right now. You're in step 10. How the hell did you get there? Mm-hmm. Right? And just shadowing, just learning, taking notes. I was like, okay, cool. This is really, really good. And then, I met you. Then obviously you start reading books and you rub shoulders with people.
Yeah.
Obviously here we are.
Yeah.
So I think that was sort of like my personal journey, and like the biggest thing for me was just basically, looking to people who have done it.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to cure cancer. So stop trying to reinvent the wheel, I always say.
Yeah.
Right. So just look to people who have done it. More than likely, like 99%, what you're trying to do has been done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So that's me. What about you?
Cool. I just want to just touch on what you just said. There was a moment where in that story where you just stopped doing what you was doing and shifted. And that's what I'm trying to get across in this message, that you need to make the change. A lot of people don't they see the problems. They might even see what's coming, but they just don't do anything about it. So that's, I wanted to just throw that in there. Like the change that you actually finally decided to make, it then changed your life. And now you're on a podcast with me.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I'll be real, like the last few years prior to sort of now, my life was quite negative. Like I was doing things and just, if you do not so great things, it just creates a certain aura, just wherever you go, bro. All right. It just attracts like negativity. And negativity, believe it or not, attracts negativity, right? And I just got to a place where I looked at my life and I'm like, John, if you keep continuing on the road you're going down, like there's only one thing that's going to happen, bro. The car's going to crash. You know what I mean? It was like the gambling and just like living not a great life. And I just got to a stage, I'm like, nah, I felt like I was going insane. I'm like, nah, I need to do something different, And for me at the time, it was just a bit of soul searching, like, where have I done quite well in life? Because, a lot of people feel lost. Like, what do you do? And I say, when you don't know what you want to do, think about where you've been successful. Because it shows you, you may be passionate about it, you like it.
Success leaves clues,
exactly. And I got curious is the word. And the minute you get curious, like, instead of like, just going about everyday life normal, you actually, what's that over there? Let me go on Instagram. Let me watch this YouTube video about how to lose 10 pounds. Do you know what I mean? Let me learn how to cook more healthy. Let me start doing 10,000 steps. And that one shift, I feel like it just, you're on a journey, and a one shift can, if it's the right shift, can take you on a more positive path. So that was kind of, I got to a place where too much negativity around me. I needed to change, and I just, you need to change, bro.
100%. And guys, hopefully you're appreciating a lot of the gems that we're dropping. So please make sure you're liking, you're sharing, and always subscribing.
So we're going to give you some practical steps that you can go away and implement over the next 90 days to see what changes it makes. And if it doesn't make any changes, Freeman's going to give you £100.
I don't know about that.
So I'm trying to say, if you do those changes, your life will change.
Literally.
It will change.
Literally. So in terms of like some practical steps now, so let's try and envision, like our standard audience or viewer is, they're working a 9 to 5, right? They hate the fact they've only got 25 days of annual leave. Sharon, who's been there for 15 years, even though it's not her boss telling her what to do, right? It's bugging. Like, you know, she or he knows something needs to change, right? Like, I know I need to change. I've been sitting there, I just said, like, you know, I really like, you know, I'm really, really good at filming and photography and editing, and I'm really, really good at it. And I've been doing it for myself, and I do a couple of my cousin and uncles and aunties' weddings, but I can make this into an actual business, right? So for that person, for him, for her, like, what would you say is like an immediate practical step they can do now? They know what they need to do to change, right? And that change could be like just making that Instagram handle. But what's like a true practical step that they can do?
It's funny because I made a video yesterday. I was driving in my car. I'm gonna start putting out more positivity in the world because I feel the world needs it. And I was just saying to myself, you was at my house, bro. Like Wednesday night, we sat in my garden until 1 o'clock in the morning having a mastermind meeting, right?
Yeah.
And I said to you, bro, it's getting late, you know. I've got a spin class at 7:15.
Yeah.
By the time I tidy up my house, put the rubbish out, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I got to be at David Lloyd in that bike by 7:15 or Jude's closing the door. You know,
yeah, she's militant.
She don't play around.
Yeah, Jude don't play.
But I'm like, I'm going. And I sent you a video while I was on the bike.
Yeah.
Like, where I'm going with this is be that person that when they say they're going to do something, they do it. That is it, quite simply. Because there's going to be so much times in your day, in your life, where you don't feel like doing it. I could have so rolled over when the alarm went off at 6:30. I've slept for 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? So just become the person who, when they say they're going to do something, just do it. And I feel if you do that, you can't lose. If you say you're going to start that business, you're a doer, so you start it, right? Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
So, yeah.
No, I don't think I can add anything more to that. But guys, this is the part of the show called Plug Bites.
Indeed.
Where John and I share a scripture, a verse, a quote, something that just really resonated with us that we felt like, you know, massively sort of stood out. So I don't know if you've got something.
I'm going to go. So as you know, for those of you who know me personally, or you might have heard me quote some of his quotes in the past, I'm going to go with Jim Rohn. This is a quote that helped me transition from being in a 9-to-5 job to now running my own business. And he said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And that quote has changed my life. You know, he said, when you work on your job, it pays you a living. But if you work on yourself, it can make you a fortune. I.e. go away and, you know, set up a business that can change your life. And I think, I started working harder on myself, personal development, consistency, communication, all that type of stuff. And my life changed.
No, I love that, bro. I think for me, and I think I said it before, but it just sort of hits home on today's pod. It says, we must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? So either way, you're in pain.
Yes.
There's struggle, there's strife at the end of that, right? So it's either you have the struggle and strife of just working it through and being disciplined and being the person that you need to be that receives on that back end, or you be that person that loses out, right?
Yes.
You be that person that doesn't actually win and get what they need to do.
Yes. Cool. Guys, we got to rush because I was late, so we're running out of studio time. But guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
And as always, please make sure you tell a friend, tell your mum, tell your dad, tell his mistress.
Jeez.
And as always, guys, love, love, love.
Elevate.